In this video, we will make our loading screen module configurable through the project settings. Now let's talk about making our loading screen system configurable using Unreal's developer settings class. This is a crucial step that will make our system much more flexible and easier to maintain. The developer settings class is a powerful tool in Unreal Engine that allows us to create project-wide settings. Instead of hard-coding values or spreading configurations across multiple files, we can centralize all of our loading screen settings in one easily accessible location. This gives us a dedicated section in the project settings window where designers and artists can modify loading screen properties without touching code. Whether it's changing loading screen messages, adjusting timings, or updating visual styles, everything can be configured from one place. Also, these settings persist with your project and can be version controlled. This means your entire team can share the same configurations and you can track changes to these settings over time. Let's create our own settings class for the loading screen system. Alright, so to start being able to add some of our properties to the project settings, the first thing that we should do is create a new C++ class, and this one's going to inherit from developer settings. Right, so this is a base class for any auto-discovered setting objects, and that is what we're going to be using. Alright, so again, this should go inside our loading screen module, and let's call this level loading settings. Alright, once that loads up, let's reload our project and let's open up the header file. So to this we want to add some properties to the uClass specifier here, to the macro. So we want this to be game configuration, part of the default configuration, and we want the display name for this to be loading screen inside the project settings. To this, we're going to add anything that we want to be able to configure inside the project settings. So in our case, we're going to display the minimum loading screen display time, so 2 seconds, or you can change the 5 or 10 or 1, whatever you want through the project settings. We're also going to display the background image, so we don't have to hard code, inside code any references to an image. And we want this to be part, only texture types should be allowed in here. And then we're also going to have an array of maps that we want to have loading screens. So sometimes you don't want every map to have a loading screen. So again, we're going to specify the allowed classes to be world and any levels that we'll be able to store in here to indicate that these are the levels that we want our loading screens for. All right, so let's open up our module CPP now, and inside our startup module, let's load our settings. So we are going to load the level loading settings file that we just created, and then we are going to try, instead of hard coding the path through here, get it from the project settings. Right, so first we're going to try and get the level loading settings, and then we're going to try and get from the settings the background image, which is going to be a path. If that is not null, we are going to try and load it. Right, so we get the class that we want to load, the path to the asset as well, and that is going to be stored inside a background texture. So when this module starts up, we're going to load this texture as soon as it starts up so that we can have it in memory for our loading screens. Now when we start the loading screen, we need a little bit more info in here to check to see which map is currently being loaded, to see if we want to display a loading screen for that particular map. So let's change this and pass in the map name that we want. And then we're going to check in here and see. We're going to get our settings again. Initially set the should show loading screen to false. We're going to loop through our array of maps that we want to have loading screens. If this map name, or if the path of the map inside our project setting contains this map name, it means that we want to have a loading screen, and we set that to true, and then we break out of here, and then we'll proceed. Or if we never get to this point and this is still false, it means that we don't want to show a loading screen, so we'll just early out and not actually display anything. And in here, instead of hard coding the value of 2, we can just get it from the settings, the minimum loading screen display time that we can configure through the project settings. And then the last thing is, let's just make sure that this gets passed in correctly. So let's take this, go to our header file, pass that in there as well. And then we also need to go to our game instance. And we also have to pass in the map name through here as well. All right, so let's build this and let's configure it inside Unreal Engine. All right, let's run this. All right, so now inside our project settings, we should have a loading screen section here. Inside there, we can specify which maps we want to contain loading screens, what background image we want to have, what's the duration for the display time. So let's just say our only first-person map, our gameplay map, is the only one that we want to have a loading screen for. Everyone else shouldn't have a loading screen, and this is what the loading screen background image should be. So again, let's run it in standalone. All right, so now if we go credits, we don't see our loading screen. If we click start, that's where we'll see our loading screen. And again, if we go back to main menu, we won't see it. So we only see it once the this game play level is actually being loaded in. In the next video, we will wrap everything up.